Entire empires collapsed, and no one knows who destroyed them. Around 3,200 years ago, the Mediterranean world stood at the height of an age that seemed unshakable. It was a world glittering with wealth, culture, and the achievements of civilizations that had risen over thousands of years. From the fertile plains of Egypt to the rugged hills of Greece, from the bustling ports of the Levant to the highlands of Anatolia, humanity had woven together a vast, interconnected network, an ancient global system that brought prosperity to millions. The sun rose each day over busy harbors filled with ships, merchants, and sailors shouting commands as they lifted cargo from faraway land. Egyptian scribes, trained from childhood in the sacred art of writing, recorded every event they deemed important: diplomatic treaties, trade deals, tax records, and detailed chronicles of military campaigns. To these people, their world did not merely survive, it thrived, grounded in the belief that Egypt would continue into eternity. But Egypt was not the only power to shine brilliantly in this era. In their grand throne rooms, decorated with colorful frescoes and adorned with gold, rulers planned expeditions, negotiated alliances, and oversaw a thriving economy driven by trade and craftsmanship. Mycenaean pottery, oil, wine, and metal goods traveled across the sea to Cyprus, Egypt, and the Levant. Meanwhile, everyday life flourished in ways rarely seen in history. Farmers plowed fields with bronze tools, tended vineyards, and harvested olives. Shepherds guided flocks across green hills. Artisans hammered bronze into tools, weapons, and ornaments. Potters shaped clay into finely decorated vessels. Carpenters carved intricate furniture. Weavers produced luxurious textiles. Markets buzzed with the sounds of traders and livestock. Temples filled with incense and charm. Political tension simmered too. The Hittite Empire struggled with rebellions in its outer territories. Rival Mycenaean city-states competed for influence. Egyptian provinces sometimes resisted paying tribute. The delicate balance between these great powers was beginning to tilt, but slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly. During this time, most people carried on as usual. But these were early signs. Across the Mediterranean, royal archives began mentioning mysterious attackers described not as isolated tribes, but as entire peoples. Not bandits. Not local rebels. Something larger. Something that moved together. Something that destroyed, and then, slowly, like a distant storm gaining momentum, the sea peoples grew in number. More ships gathered along distant shores. More families, warriors, and entire tribes joined the migrating force. They were survivors, fighters, and wanderers, driven by hunger, conflict, or hope for a new home. Their origins remain shrouded in mystery even today. Some may have come from the Aegean, others from western Anatolia, some perhaps from Cyprus or the central Mediterranean. What united them was not a single nation.
The rising storm. As the civilizations of the late Bronze Age enjoyed their final moments of peace, far beyond the reach of their scribes and diplomats, movements were taking shape that would soon send shockwaves through the ancient world. The Sea Peoples, the mysterious wave of migrants, warriors, families, and seafarers, had not yet earned their infamous name. They were still a scattered collection of groups, driven by hardship, united only by the forces that pushed them from their homelands. But in time, their paths would converge into a tide of destruction that would spare almost no kingdom. Their origins remain one of history's greatest unanswered questions. Archaeologists, historians, and linguists have debated for decades: where did these people come from? Why did they leave? What compelled entire populations to abandon their lands and take to the sea? The truth, hidden beneath centuries of lost records and burned cities, remains elusive. But clues exist. Fragments scattered across ancient inscriptions, ruined settlements, and puzzling artifacts found in lands once untouched by foreign invaders. Some scholars believe the Sea Peoples were originally from the Aegean region, perhaps from the Mycenaean world itself. Their pottery styles, weapon designs, and burial customs share striking similarities with communities from mainland Greece and the islands scattered across the Aegean Sea. Others argue that they came from western Anatolia, where political instability, earthquakes, and famine may have forced entire tribes to move westward and southward. Still others propose that some groups originated in Cyprus, as evidence shows sudden cultural transformations on the island around the same time. And a few speculate that these people traveled from as far away as Sicily, Sardinia, or the central Mediterranean, driven by unknown pressures. Regardless of their starting point, the Sea Peoples shared one defining characteristic. They moved not as armies, but as entire populations. Men, women, children, elders, and warriors traveled together. This was not mere raiding, it was resettlement, a mass migration unlike anything the ancient world had ever seen. At first, their movement was scattered. Small fleets of ships appeared on distant horizons, landing on isolated islands or unprotected coasts. Local communities may have offered resistance, or perhaps they simply fled. Sometimes the arriving groups built temporary camps, other times they moved on. These were the quiet beginnings of what would become a full-scale Bronze Age collapse. The earliest written hints of this rising storm appear in letters discovered in the ruins of Ugarit, once a vibrant coastal city now known for its vast archive of clay tablets. These letters, baked in fire when the city was destroyed, provide a haunting, frozen-in-time snapshot of its final days. One letter from a government official named Amurapi warns that the enemy ships grow more numerous, more aggressive, more desperate. Another letter pleads for reinforcements, stating that the attackers have set fire to the cities and done terrible things in the land. The most chilling aspect of these letters is not simply what they say, but that they were never sent. The tablets remained in the oven, unfired, untouched, because the attack came before the scribes could finish them. Ugarit was destroyed almost overnight. But before its destruction, Ugarit had been a prosperous hub, one that recorded unusual disturbances. Ships disappearing, outposts falling silent, coastal villages reporting raids, local rulers writing to their overlords in Hatti or Egypt asking for help, grain, or soldiers. These were the tremors before the earthquake. Meanwhile, in the Hittite Empire, the situation was becoming increasingly unstable. For decades, the Hittites had maintained a delicate balance of power across Anatolia, but droughts, internal rebellions, and economic decline were taking their toll. Entire regions struggled to produce enough grain to feed their people. Trade routes that once supplied them with essential resources became increasingly unreliable. And as the Sea Peoples approached, attacking coastal cities along the Mediterranean, the Hittites found themselves unable to defend their vast borders. The Hittite kings, once powerful rulers commanding armies of chariots, now found themselves cornered by crises they could not control. Letters from Hittite officials describe a world collapsing in slow motion. Enemies advancing from the west, rebellious tribes rising from within, and famine devastating entire provinces. The capital, Hattusa, struggled to survive. Grain shipments from Egypt and Cyprus were delayed or lost entirely. When the Sea Peoples finally reached the shores of Anatolia, they struck with a speed and ferocity that caught even seasoned generals off guard. Cities along the coast fell one by one, while inland communities were left vulnerable and unprotected. The Mycenaean world, too, began to unravel. This once great civilization, famous for its warriors, its palaces, and its legendary kings, showed signs of weakening. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of widespread destruction around this period. Fortresses such as Mycenae, Tiryns, and Pylos show marks of violent attacks, burned walls, collapsed roofs, and hastily abandoned rooms left filled with valuable goods left behind. Linear B tablets, discovered among the ashes, reveal hurried attempts by Mycenaean officials to organize defenses, recruit soldiers, and launch emergency plans. One tablet from Pylos even mentions coastal watchers stationed along the shoreline, tasked with scanning the horizon for incoming enemy ships. But none of this preparation was enough. Cities that had stood for centuries defended by walls thicker than modern buildings fell in quick succession. The once dominant Mycenaean civilization crumbled, leaving behind ruins that would later fuel Greek myths of a lost heroic age. But meanwhile, the Sea Peoples continued their march southward, targeting every coastal region along their journey. Their numbers grew as more families joined them. Their weapons evolved as they adopted bronze swords, spears, shields, and helmets from the lands they raided. Their tactics became more coordinated. They used fast ships capable of maneuvering quickly in shallow water, allowing them to strike without warning and vanish before defenders could respond. They attacked in waves, sometimes burning a city and moving on, other times settling in its ruins. To the societies they encountered, these invaders appeared to be an unstoppable force. But what did the Sea Peoples themselves experience? What drove them forward? History cannot yet answer these questions in full, but clues paint a picture of desperation and opportunity intertwined. Climate changes may have devastated harvests across the eastern Mediterranean. Earthquakes, common in the Aegean, may have collapsed communities, forcing survivors to flee. Internal conflicts, political instability, and rival migrations may have pushed tribes into new territories. And once migration began, it may have created a domino effect. As one group moved, it displaced another and another, until the entire region was in motion. This chain reaction eventually pointed south toward the last great power still standing firm, Egypt. Egypt watched the rising chaos with growing concern. Pharaohs received reports of burned cities, disappearing trade ships, and foreign tribes moving across the sea. At first, the Egyptians believed they were dealing with isolated incidents, pirates, raiders, or rebellious vassals. But soon, the scale of destruction made it clear that something far larger was underway. In the inscriptions of Ramses II and later Ramses III, the Egyptians described these groups as foreigners from the sea. They list tribes like the Peliset, Denyen, Checker, Shurdan, and Shekelish, among others. Whether these names refer to ethnic groups, tribal coalitions, or confederations of warriors remains uncertain, but Egyptian records describe them as formidable foes, people who traveled with their families, bringing wagons, cattle, and belongings, prepared not just to attack, but to settle. Their arrival in Egyptian territory marked the beginning of the final, most devastating phase of the Bronze Age collapse. But before Egypt faced the full fury of the Sea Peoples, the invaders turned their attention to the gateway between Anatolia and the Levant, the rich and strategically critical region of Syria. Cities that had prospered for centuries, including Ugarit, Alalak, and others, found themselves directly in the path of the migrating forces. Ugarit in particular was caught in a tragic position, too far from Egypt to receive help quickly and too weak from previous troubles to resist effectively. As the Sea People's fleets appeared offshore, Ugarit sent desperate pleas to the Hittite king, begging for troops, but the Hittite Empire was already collapsing. No help came. The invaders landed, they advanced through the city, torching homes, destroying temples, and killing or dispersing its population. The city burned, and with it, a culture that had thrived for nearly 1,000 years disappeared forever. The ruins of Ugarit are a haunting reminder of the suddenness of its fall. Archaeologists found evidence of meals left unfinished, doors left open, personal items scattered as if people fled in panic. In storage rooms, jars still filled with grain stand untouched. In workshops, tools lie abandoned mid-use. And in the royal archive, clay tablets remained unfired, letters pleading for help that would never arrive. The destruction of Ugarit sent shockwaves through the region. Cities that once felt secure now understood the magnitude of the threat. But by the time awareness spread, it was too late. The Sea Peoples were advancing relentlessly, leaving ruin in their wake. The collapse was no longer theoretical, it had begun. The Hittite Empire crumbled entirely. Mycenaean Greece descended into chaos. Trade networks that once brought copper, tin, grain, and luxury goods across the Mediterranean fell apart. Without trade, economies collapsed. Without economies, armies could not be maintained. Without armies, cities were helpless. The entire system of the Late Bronze Age, complex, interconnected, and interdependent, collapsed like a chain of falling dominoes. By the time the Sea Peoples reached the borders of Egypt, they were no longer merely a migrating group. They had become a force powerful enough to challenge even the most enduring civilization of the ancient world. The Egyptians prepared for battle, knowing that the fate of their kingdom and perhaps the entire eastern Mediterranean would be decided in the conflicts to come. Ramses III in particular recognized the scale of the threat. He reorganized his army, strengthened naval defenses, and prepared for an invasion unlike any Egypt had faced before. The world that had existed for centuries was collapsing. Ancient alliances failed, cities burned, scripts died, trade routes vanished, cultures disappeared. But even as darkness spread, Egypt remained standing, aware that its turn would soon come. This was no longer just migration, no longer just raiding. This was a civilizational upheaval, a storm sweeping across the Mediterranean. And the next phase of that storm would strike Egypt itself.
Cities fell, palaces were burned, and entire cultures vanished almost overnight. The world that once thrived with wealth, diplomacy, and interconnected prosperity now faced a sudden, violent, and catastrophic collapse. As the Sea People surged across the Mediterranean, the great kingdoms of the Late Bronze Age, so powerful, so confident in their invincibility, began to crumble one after another. What had taken centuries to build would unravel in a matter of years. Smoke rose from capitals that once glittered in the sunlight. Silence replaced the markets that had bustled with life. And the familiar rhythms of daily existence were replaced by a deep, pervasive fear. The collapse was not isolated. It wasn't the fall of a single kingdom, nor the destruction of a single city. It was a chain reaction, a domino effect that swept across the entire region. The Hittites, the Mycenaeans, Ugarit, the Levantine city-states, even Egypt itself, each one experienced devastation on a scale rarely seen in human history. For centuries, they had formed the backbone of the Mediterranean world. But now their walls trembled, their armies faltered, and their populations fled as a great storm engulfed them. In Anatolia, the mighty Hittite Empire was the first major civilization to fall. Hattusa, the great capital surrounded by massive stone fortifications, had stood for centuries as a symbol of power. Its archives held diplomatic treaties, royal decrees, and records that linked the Hittites to every other major power of their age. Yet within a short span of time, this magnificent city was reduced to ash. Archaeologists found layers of destruction, charred remains of palaces, broken weapons, collapsed gates. But the most telling discovery was the silence that followed. No rebuilding. No return of the population. Hattusa was abandoned completely, left to the winds and the mountains. It was as if an entire civilization had evaporated. As the Hittites fell, chaos spread westward to the shores of Greece. The Mycenaean world, so proud, so militaristic, so deeply rooted in heroic legend, collapsed with equal suddenness. Their towering citadels, once symbols of unmatched strength, were engulfed in flames. Mycenae, the city of golden masks and colossal walls, suffered destruction. Pylos, the seat of a powerful kingdom, was burned, its archives recording desperate pleas for help before communication ceased forever. Across the Greek mainland, fortresses were abandoned, palaces destroyed, and trade networks severed. What had been a sophisticated bureaucratic system suddenly vanished, and the famous Linear B script used by Mycenaean scribes disappeared for centuries. Across the sea, the wealthy city of Ugarit faced an equally tragic fate. Days before its destruction, the king of Ugarit sent urgent letters begging for military assistance. He wrote that enemy ships had appeared on the horizon. He pleaded for reinforcements. But before help could arrive, Ugarit was attacked. Fire consumed the city. Its palaces collapsed. Its people either fled or perished. When archaeologists uncovered Ugarit centuries later, they found meals still sitting in ovens, evidence of a city destroyed so suddenly that daily life had no time to pause. It was a haunting snapshot of a civilization frozen in its final moments. The Levantine coastal cities fared no better. Town after town was attacked, looted, and burned. Their ports, once filled with merchants and sailors, were reduced to wreckage. Trade networks that had stretched thousands of kilometers collapsed instantly. Without these networks, local economies failed. Workshops closed. Craftsmen disappeared. Entire populations migrated in panic, seeking refuge, only to find more devastation in neighboring regions. As the Sea Peoples advanced, chaos spread inland. Grain fields were destroyed, cattle taken, homes burned. Villages that had survived for generations were suddenly wiped from existence. Refugees flooded the countryside. Crime increased. Armies disbanded or were annihilated in battle. Even the weather turned hostile during these years. Droughts, earthquakes, and crop failures intensified the suffering. Nature itself seemed to conspire with the invaders, pushing entire societies to the brink. Egypt, one of the greatest powers of the ancient world, was not spared. Though it did not fall like the Hittites or the Mycenaeans, it endured immense pressure. Egyptian inscriptions speak of massive waves of invaders sweeping across the land, destroying everything in their path. The pharaohs fought desperate battles along the Nile Delta, using chariots, archers, and entire fleets to repel the Sea Peoples. They succeeded, barely. But Pharaoh Ramses III wrote that entire nations were uprooted, their lands emptied, their people traveling in massive groups across the sea. Though Egypt triumphed militarily, the cost was immense. Its resources were drained, its population strained, and its economy shattered. The empire would never return to its former glory. With the collapse of these civilizations came the collapse of their systems, administration, writing, trade, diplomacy, craftsmanship, metallurgy. Bronze, the metal that had powered armies and shaped economies, became scarce. Tin, a crucial ingredient of bronze, was no longer arriving from distant lands. Without bronze, weapons and tools declined in quality. Ordinary people returned to simpler ways of living. The world entered a dark age, a period of regression after centuries of progress. The causes of this collapse have puzzled historians for generations. It was not a single force, but a convergence of many. Invasions by the Sea Peoples were a major catalyst, but environmental disasters also played a significant role. Evidence shows long periods of drought struck the region, leading to failed harvests, famine, and desperation. Earthquakes struck many cities along major fault lines. The interconnectedness of the Late Bronze Age, once its greatest strength, became its greatest weakness. When one civilization fell, the others lost vital trade partners, resources, and diplomatic support. The entire system was so deeply interwoven that when one thread snapped, the whole fabric unraveled. Some historians argue that internal rebellion contributed to the collapse. Discontent among lower classes, who suffered under heavy burdens of labor, taxation, and famine, may have sparked uprisings. Others believe disease played a role, moving along trade routes and weakening populations already struggling with hunger. Some point to technological shifts. Iron began to replace bronze, altering military power dynamics. Civilizations still dependent on bronze found themselves vulnerable to groups who mastered iron weapons earlier. There are even theories that climate change disrupted the monsoon patterns that once nurtured farmlands, causing long-term droughts across the Mediterranean basin. Pollen analysis from ancient soil samples reveals declining crop growth and massive reductions in vegetation during this era. Lakes dried up, rivers receded, and once fertile regions became barren. Desperation grew. Populations moved. Conflict erupted. What makes this collapse unique is not just its scale, but its speed. Within just a few decades, more than 40 major cities across the eastern Mediterranean were destroyed. Palaces that had stood for centuries were reduced to rubble. Entire writing systems disappeared. Diplomatic networks dissolved. Cultural identities faded. It was as if the lights of the ancient world had gone dark all at once. In the aftermath, new societies eventually emerged, but they were fundamentally different from those that had existed before. Simpler. Less centralized. Less connected. The grand palaces were never rebuilt. The advanced bureaucracies vanished. The people who survived adapted to a harsher, more uncertain world. Local chieftains replaced kings. Small villages replaced sprawling urban centers. The once mighty civilizations became shadows of their former selves. Debates among scholars continue to this day. Was the collapse primarily due to the Sea Peoples? Or were the Sea Peoples themselves refugees created by environmental disasters? Were they invaders, migrants, or survivors of fallen kingdoms? Why did some regions recover faster than others? Why did Egypt survive when so many others fell? These questions remain open, fueling research, argument, and discovery. Each new archaeological find offers new clues, but the full picture remains elusive. What is certain, however, is that the collapse was not a single moment, but a complex unraveling of an entire system. A perfect storm of pressures, military, economic, environmental, social, converged to bring the Late Bronze Age world to its knees. The once glorious interconnected network of empires became fragmented, isolated, and vulnerable. The great cities that once lit the Mediterranean with their brilliance were reduced to ruins, their stories buried beneath layers of ash and earth. The collapse of the Bronze Age was one of the most dramatic turning points in human history. It marked the end of an era defined by monumental architecture, long-distance trade, international diplomacy, and vibrant cultural exchange. And yet, from this devastation, new cultures eventually arose, cultures that would write new chapters in the story of humanity. But for the people who lived through the collapse, it was not the beginning of something new. It was the end of the world as they knew it. As the flames consumed their cities and enemies marched through their streets, they could not have imagined that their civilizations, so powerful, so advanced, could vanish so quickly. They could not have known that their disappearance would puzzle future generations. They only knew that the world they depended on had shattered, leaving them to navigate a landscape of fear, ruin, and uncertainty.
The Egyptians recorded it all, that the mystery remains. On the walls of Medinet Habu, the temple of Ramses III, the story of a monumental struggle is carved in stone, reliefs that speak louder than any written record. Rows of soldiers, chariots, and ships dominate the walls, each figure etched with painstaking detail, capturing the intensity of battle, the chaos of the seas, and the fear of a civilization under siege. Here, history confronts us in its rawest form, pharaohs at war with an unknown, relentless enemy whose very identity seemed to confound the scribes who documented their deeds. The Medinet Habu reliefs are more than mere art, they are a declaration. They depict the Sea Peoples as a force both formidable and terrifying. Soldiers wear helmets with horns or feathers, carry round shields, and wield spears and swords. Their ships, unlike anything the Egyptians had faced before, are depicted with high prow and stern, perfectly suited for ramming or boarding enemy vessels. They arrive in waves, their ranks tight, their intent clear. From these carvings, one can almost hear the clash of metal, the pounding of oars against waves, and the cries of men struggling for survival. The Egyptians, in turn, respond with disciplined formations, chariots charging into the enemy, archers raining arrows down from fortified positions. Ramses III, a pharaoh renowned for his military acumen, recognized the danger immediately. Unlike earlier threats, the Sea Peoples did not simply raid, they attacked in coordinated groups, striking multiple regions simultaneously. Egypt's northern coast became a battlefield, with ships engaging in violent clashes on the waters of the Nile Delta. Historical records describe tactics that were both defensive and offensive. Egyptian ships were lined along the coast, creating a blockade, while chariots patrolled the shoreline, ready to intercept any force that landed. Soldiers on the walls of fortified towns hurled projectiles and fired arrows into the ranks of the attackers, holding them at bay until the next wave could be repelled. The battles themselves were brutal and decisive. The Sea Peoples, though organized and aggressive, were met by an enemy who had mastered the art of warfare over centuries. Ramses III deployed his army strategically, using the geography of the delta to funnel the attackers into kill zones. Ships were rammed, oars broken, warriors thrown into the water. Egyptian reliefs show bodies piled upon the decks of enemy vessels, the precision of the Egyptian army leaving little chance for escape. Yet despite these victories, the reliefs convey tension, fear, and the reality that Egypt had never faced an adversary quite like this before. Beyond the reliefs, papyrus scrolls and inscriptions corroborate the narrative. The pharaoh's annals describe the arrival of ships from the north and the west, fleets without number moving across the Mediterranean, striking at coastal cities before advancing toward Egypt itself. They recount the capture of prisoners, the seizure of spoils, and the execution of enemy leaders, emphasizing both the ferocity of the Sea Peoples and the might of the Egyptian response. The records are meticulous, almost obsessive in their detail, highlighting the Egyptians' need to document a threat that shook the very foundation of their civilization. Archaeological evidence beyond Egypt offers additional insight into the Sea Peoples' campaigns. In the ruins of Ugarit, scholars have uncovered clay tablets detailing raids and destruction coinciding with the timing of the Egyptian battles. In Anatolia and the Levant, cities show signs of burning, abandonment, and sudden population decline. Ships' remnants, weapon fragments, and changes in settlement patterns suggest that the Sea Peoples were not a single group, but a coalition of warriors from multiple regions, united by necessity, opportunity, or desperation. These findings paint a picture of a dynamic, mobile, and highly adaptive force, one that could strike coastal cities with speed, exploit weaknesses, and disappear before a counterattack could be mounted. The tactics of the Sea Peoples were innovative for their time. On land, they used close formation attacks to break through city gates, overwhelming defenders with sheer numbers. On water, they employed ships capable of both speed and combat, using boarding techniques that forced enemy sailors into hand-to-hand combat. Archaeologists have found evidence of specialized weapons, including long spears designed to hook enemy shields and short curved swords ideal for close combat. Helmets and armor recovered from archaeological sites indicate a blend of cultural influences, Aegean, Anatolian, and Levantine, suggesting that these groups had integrated different styles of warfare into a single highly effective system. Ramses III's victories at the Battle of the Delta were decisive, but they did not end the threat. Inscriptions proudly display the defeat of the invaders, yet the Egyptian records themselves hint at a continued wariness. Ships continued to appear on the horizon, coastal towns reinforced their walls, soldiers remained on high alert. The pharaoh's emphasis on documenting these battles suggests a civilization acutely aware that the Sea Peoples represented more than just a military challenge. They were part of a wider disruption reshaping the Mediterranean world. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Sea Peoples' campaigns is the combination of ruthlessness and strategy. They attacked indiscriminately, yet never wasted resources. Coastal settlements were looted, strategic ports captured and then abandoned or repurposed. Ships were seized, repaired, and redeployed. Populations were displaced, sometimes forcibly integrated into new regions or driven entirely from their homelands. This combination of mobility, adaptability, and relentless pressure made them uniquely effective, creating a chain reaction of instability across multiple civilizations. The visual evidence of these battles is striking. Animated reconstructions bring the Medinet Habu reliefs to life. Egyptian chariots charging along sandy banks, waves crashing against the hulls of enemy ships, bronze weapons glinting in the harsh sunlight. Smoke rises from burning cities, and streets once teeming with merchants and artisans lie empty and silent. Hyper-realistic warriors clash in the surf, while the relentless tide of the Sea Peoples sweeps inland. Every frame tells a story of chaos, courage, and survival.
The Egyptian victories, while impressive, did not erase the broader consequences of the Bronze Age collapse. The invasions accelerated the decline of already weakened states, disrupted trade, and contributed to famine and social upheaval in neighboring regions. Yet the records left behind, reliefs, inscriptions, and annals, provide an unparalleled window into the scale, organization, and impact of this mysterious force. They show a civilization confronting an unprecedented threat, deploying its full military and administrative resources to survive, and meticulously recording the struggle for future generations. Beyond Egypt, archaeological evidence continues to reveal the extent of the Sea People's reach. In Cyprus, layers of destruction at coastal settlements suggest that fleets landed, plundered, and departed in rapid succession. In Anatolia, Hittite fortresses show signs of violent collapse, while pottery and weapon fragments indicate foreign origins. Even in Crete and the Aegean Islands, changes in settlement patterns and fortification strategies suggest that the influence of the Sea Peoples extended far beyond the immediate theaters of battle recorded by the Egyptians. These scattered traces underscore the scale and mobility of this enigmatic confederation, highlighting their role not only as invaders, but as agents of profound transformation in the Late Bronze Age. Historians continue to debate their true identity. Were the Sea Peoples primarily marauders, refugees, or displaced populations seeking new lands? Did they act independently, or were they part of coordinated campaigns originating from political collapse elsewhere? Were they responsible for the destruction of Mycenaean palaces, Hittite cities, and Levantine ports? Or were they opportunistic participants in a broader pattern of systemic collapse? While the Egyptian records provide one perspective, the scattered archaeological evidence across the Mediterranean suggests a far more complex picture, one in which the Sea Peoples both shaped and were shaped by the turbulence of their age. In the end, the battles between Ramses III and the Sea Peoples symbolize more than military conflict. They are the tangible record of a turning point in history, where the interconnected civilizations of the Late Bronze Age faced a force that could neither be easily understood nor fully stopped. The precision of Egyptian tactics, the artistry of the Medinet Habu reliefs, and the vivid details of the annals preserve this moment for posterity, while the unanswered questions about the Sea Peoples maintain the sense of mystery. Were the Sea Peoples victims of environmental disaster, displaced by famine, or simply opportunistic warriors exploiting weakness? The truth remains elusive, but their impact is undeniable. As waves of chaos swept across the eastern Mediterranean, as ships clashed along the Nile Delta, and the echoes of battle reverberated through every city, the stage was set for a transformation of the ancient world. The Sea Peoples would leave behind destruction, yes, but they also heralded the end of one era and the uncertain.
Historians have been debating their origin for centuries, yet the Sea Peoples continue to elude definitive identification. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why did they strike with such devastating precision across the Mediterranean during the twilight of the Late Bronze Age? Despite centuries of study, the truth remains shrouded in mystery, and each new discovery only deepens the intrigue. Ancient inscriptions, archaeological layers, linguistic traces, and fragmented artifacts all provide clues, but no single piece tells the full story. Instead, the Sea Peoples emerge from history like shadows at the edge of a storm, their presence unmistakable, yet fundamentally enigmatic. One of the most widely discussed theories posits that the Sea Peoples were largely composed of refugees from the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization. Around the same period that Egyptian records chronicled their arrival, the palaces and fortresses of the Greek mainland were burned or abandoned. Cities like Mycenae, Tiryns, and Pylos, once centers of power and culture, fell into ruin, their Linear B archives ceasing abruptly. Archaeologists have found evidence of destruction layers that align with the timing of Sea Peoples campaigns, suggesting a direct connection. It is possible that displaced populations, soldiers, sailors, and civilians fled their shattered homelands, seeking new territory along the fertile coasts of the eastern Mediterranean. Driven by desperation and survival, these groups may have coalesced into the raiding confederation recorded by the Egyptians. Supporting this hypothesis are similarities in material culture. Weapons, pottery, and armor found in regions attacked by the Sea Peoples show striking parallels with Mycenaean designs. Round shields decorated with geometric patterns, bronze swords of familiar form, and even certain ship construction techniques echo Aegean origins. It is plausible that these were not mere raiders, but skilled warriors carrying with them the technological and cultural legacy of a fallen civilization. They were, in a sense, displaced carriers of a fading world, bringing the knowledge of warfare, navigation, and settlement into regions already weakened by internal instability and environmental stress. Another theory suggests that some of the Sea Peoples originated in Anatolia, the land of the Hittites. This theory is supported by inscriptions and records from the region that indicate the movement of various tribes and confederations during this period. As the Hittite Empire faltered under pressure from internal rebellion, famine, and invasions, groups once loyal to the Hittite kings may have migrated westward, either in search of opportunity or out of necessity. Archaeological findings, such as fortifications abruptly abandoned and settlements destroyed by fire, point to significant displacement. Certain stylistic elements in weapons and pottery recovered in Egypt and along the Levantine coast also suggest Anatolian influences, implying that these groups were integrated into the broader coalition known as the Sea Peoples. But the composition of the Sea Peoples was likely not uniform. Egyptian records hint at a diverse confederation, with groups identified by distinct names: Sherdan, Shekelesh, Peliset, Cheker, and Weshesh, each possibly representing different ethnic, linguistic, or regional origins. Some may have come from the central and western Mediterranean, while others were displaced from the eastern Aegean and Anatolia. This diversity could explain their ability to coordinate large-scale naval and land assaults, combining the maritime expertise of Aegean sailors with the military training and armament of Anatolian warriors. They were, in a sense, a hybrid force, forged from the collapse of multiple civilizations, and their mobility and adaptability made them extraordinarily effective against the established powers of the Eastern Mediterranean. Linguistic evidence further complicates the picture. Names and titles recorded in hieroglyphics, Ugaritic letters, and Hittite archives point to a mixture of languages, dialects, and possibly even scripts. Scholars have attempted to trace these linguistic fragments back to known populations: Aegean Greeks, Anatolian peoples, Sicilian or Sardinian groups, but no single piece tells the full story. Instead, the Sea Peoples emerge from history like shadows at the edge of a storm, their presence unmistakable yet fundamentally enigmatic. Archaeological evidence from coastal settlements supports this theory of a multi-origin confederation. Sites in Cyprus, Crete, the Levant, and southern Anatolia revealed destruction layers corresponding to Sea Peoples' activity. In some locations, pottery styles and metalwork reflect Aegean influences. In others, Anatolian or Levantine traits dominate. Ship remains suggest advanced seafaring capabilities, likely inherited from multiple maritime traditions. These combined elements allowed the Sea Peoples to mount sustained campaigns over hundreds of kilometers, targeting both urban centers and rural settlements, striking quickly and withdrawing before organized resistance could respond. Some researchers propose that environmental stress played a significant role in motivating these migrations and attacks. Pollen analysis, sediment cores, and climatological studies indicate periods of severe drought and agricultural decline across the eastern Mediterranean and Aegean during the late 13th and early 12th centuries BCE. Crop failures would have driven mass migrations, forcing groups to seek new lands and resources. In this context, the Sea Peoples may have been both refugees and aggressors, propelled by necessity, yet capable of exploiting the vulnerabilities of established civilizations. Their raids were not merely opportunistic, they were part of a survival strategy,
a response to environmental catastrophe that reshaped the political and demographic landscape of the Mediterranean. Material evidence also supports the hypothesis of environmental displacement. Settlements show sudden abandonment, storage facilities left filled with unharvested grain, and urban centers destroyed but not rebuilt. This pattern aligns with the timing of Egyptian records describing the Sea People's incursions, suggesting that these movements were not random acts of piracy, but the culmination of broader systemic pressures, famine, political instability, and social unrest. In this sense, the Sea Peoples were both a symptom and a cause of the widespread collapse of the Late Bronze Age. The integration of multiple groups into the Sea Peoples coalition would have been facilitated by shared cultural and military practices. Certain uniformities in ship design, armor, and weapons indicate coordinated planning. Egyptian reliefs depict soldiers wearing similar helmets and wielding similar spears, even as other features distinguish individual groups. This visual evidence, combined with archaeological finds, suggests that disparate groups were able to work together effectively, forming a composite force capable of challenging the most powerful states of their time. They were, in a sense, a new kind of threat, mobile, adaptable, and composed of survivors of a broken world. Despite centuries of research, the question of their ultimate fate remains unresolved. Some scholars propose that the Sea Peoples eventually settled in the lands they had attacked, integrating into the local populations and leaving traces in the emerging cultures of the early Iron Age. Others argue that many were defeated or dispersed, leaving only fleeting traces in the archaeological record. Linguistic studies suggest that certain names and tribal identifiers may have been preserved in later populations, but these connections are speculative. What is clear is that the Sea Peoples left a lasting mark on the political, cultural, and demographic landscape of the Mediterranean, shaping the transition from the Late Bronze Age to the early Iron Age. Maps of ancient Mediterranean, overlaid with modern reconstructions of their movements, reveal the scope and scale of these migrations. From the Aegean to Anatolia, from Cyprus to the Levant, and along the Egyptian coast, their path of destruction and survival is evident. Ghostly migrations, reconstructed ships cutting through stormy seas, and ruined settlements visualized in 3D illustrate the journey of a people simultaneously desperate, skilled, and enigmatic. Archaeological artifacts, from decorated swords to broken pottery, provide tangible proof of these movements and the cultural diversity of the Sea Peoples. Ultimately, the Sea Peoples challenge modern assumptions about identity, migration, and the causes of historical upheaval. They were not simply invaders, nor merely displaced refugees. They were a combination of both, reflecting the complex interplay of social, environmental, and political factors during one of the most turbulent periods in human history. Their story demonstrates how interconnected civilizations can be vulnerable to systemic collapse, how displaced populations can transform the fate of established empires, and how the traces of such movements can persist in both material culture and historical memory. The question remains open, the debate ongoing. Were the Sea Peoples primarily Aegean refugees fleeing the destruction of Mycenaean palaces? Were they Anatolian tribes displaced by the fall of the Hittite Empire? Or were they an amalgamation of unknown groups drawn together by opportunity, survival, or divine fate? Archaeology continues to provide clues, but the full answer remains elusive. Each ruin, each inscription, and each artifact adds a layer to the mystery, painting a picture of a world in transition, a people on the move, and a civilization forced to confront forces beyond its control. Historians, archaeologists, and linguists continue to study these fragments, reconstructing ship types, analyzing weaponry, and mapping migration patterns. Yet despite centuries of scholarship,
The night the Sea Peoples arrived reshaped the entire Mediterranean for centuries. Cities once vibrant with trade, diplomacy, and culture were reduced to ashes, their streets deserted, their palaces crumbled. The collapse was not merely a military or political event, it was a transformation that echoed through every corner of society. The destruction wrought by the Sea Peoples created a void, an absence that would not be filled for generations. In the aftermath, civilizations faced a reality they had never imagined. The world they had known, with its thriving networks of commerce, art, and governance, had vanished almost overnight. In Greece, the fall of the Mycenaean palaces heralded the onset of what historians call the Greek Dark Ages. With the destruction of centralized political structures, the intricate administrative systems that had supported the palaces disappeared. Linear B, the script used to record trade, taxes, and governance, ceased to be used, leaving centuries of illiteracy in its wake. Communities retreated to hilltops, building smaller, more defensible settlements. The sophisticated trade networks that had once connected the Aegean, Anatolia, and the Levant broke apart. Pottery, once standardized and widely traded, became localized. Craftsmanship declined, and cultural production slowed dramatically. Knowledge that had been painstakingly accumulated over generations vanished, leaving only fragments preserved in oral tradition. The societal consequences were profound. Populations were displaced in waves, fleeing destroyed cities or searching for arable land and security. Refugees moved across the Mediterranean, blending with surviving communities or establishing new settlements. These migrations altered demographic patterns, creating pockets of cultural fusion as diverse peoples came into contact. Yet these movements were often chaotic, driven by desperation rather than planning. Entire regions experienced depopulation as previously thriving coastal towns lay abandoned. Fields once tilled with care reverted to wilderness, and forests slowly reclaimed the ruins of human habitation. Trade, the lifeblood of the late Bronze Age, collapsed entirely in many areas. Long-distance commerce that had brought copper from Cyprus, tin from the Zagros Mountains, and exotic goods from Egypt and Anatolia ceased. Cities that had thrived as ports and market hubs became isolated. Without trade, economies stagnated, metal supplies dwindled, and technological innovation slowed. Weapons and tools once manufactured with bronze became scarce or of lower quality. Communities reverted to local production, relying on simpler techniques and raw materials. The interconnectedness that had once been humanity's strength now became an impossibility as the Mediterranean fractured into isolated pockets of survival. The loss of literacy and administrative systems further compounded the decline. Palaces, archives, and libraries were destroyed. Scribes vanished, taking with them the ability to record and transmit knowledge. Diplomatic letters that had kept peace and trade agreements in place were lost, leaving successor generations without guidance or precedent. Governments fragmented, and power shifted to local chieftains or tribal leaders. Social hierarchies flattened in many areas, as the elite who had controlled wealth and administration were killed, displaced, or stripped of their resources. Communities became smaller, self-sufficient, and defensive, focused more on survival than on cultural development. Even Egypt, which managed to repel the Sea Peoples more successfully than its neighbors, felt the ripple effects. While the pharaoh maintained political control, the economic strain was immense. Grain supplies were disrupted, coastal settlements had to be rebuilt or reinforced, and resources were diverted from projects of culture and architecture to fortification and defense. Egypt survived as a political entity, but its influence over the eastern Mediterranean waned. Trade with previously flourishing partners became sporadic or non-existent, and the broader network of interdependent civilizations was forever altered. Archaeological evidence from this period paints a vivid picture of decline and abandonment. In the Levant, cities like Ugarit never fully recovered. Streets overgrown with weeds, palaces and temples left in ruin, and ports clogged with sediment all signal a long-term disruption of urban life. In Cyprus and the Aegean Islands, settlements were dramatically reduced in size, with population shifts and fortifications suggesting fear of renewed attacks. Even centuries later, traces of these collapses are visible in the archaeological record. Layers of destruction, abandoned fortresses, and changes in material culture reveal a Mediterranean world struggling to adapt.
The cultural impact was equally profound. Artistic production, which had once celebrated luxury, power, and sophistication, declined sharply. Frescoes, elaborate jewelry, and finely crafted ceramics became rare. Local styles emerged, simpler and less standardized, reflecting the collapse of the extensive trade and communication networks that had previously spread artistic techniques and motifs across the region. Knowledge of advanced metallurgy, shipbuilding, and construction diminished, as artisans either perished, fled, or adapted to more rudimentary methods. Civilization regressed in many ways, as the focus shifted from grandeur and innovation to subsistence and defense. Yet, despite the devastation, human resilience persisted. Small communities adapted to new realities, learning to survive in a world without the structures of palace economies and long-distance trade. Villages cultivated local crops, relied on nearby forests for fuel and materials, and developed social structures suited to smaller, more mobile populations. Oral traditions preserved stories of the lost civilizations, myths of fallen kings, and legends of the sea peoples, ensuring that the memory of what had been endured, even if the records themselves were gone. The collapse also set the stage for profound transformations in political organization. Without centralized control of palace administrations, power became localized. Tribal leaders, village councils, and emerging city-states began to define governance in ways that were more responsive to immediate needs. This decentralization would later allow for the gradual rise of new powers, including the early Greek city-states, the Phoenician maritime culture, and the eventual resurgence of trade in the Iron Age. The ashes of the Late Bronze Age were fertile ground for the seeds of a new era, even if that era would take centuries to fully emerge. Population displacement during this period created a mosaic of cultural interaction and exchange. Refugees from Mycenae, Anatolia, and the Levant carried with them technologies, beliefs, and customs. As they resettled in safer regions, they introduced elements of their previous cultures, blending with local traditions. This fusion shaped the evolution of Mediterranean societies in subtle yet lasting ways, influencing language, art, religious practice, and social organization. Even as cities lay abandoned, the movement of peoples ensured that knowledge and culture were not entirely extinguished. The long-term consequences of the Bronze Age collapse extended far beyond immediate survival. Literacy, once widespread in palace-centered civilizations, became rare. Trade, which had linked disparate cultures, fragmented. Social hierarchies, once rigid and well-defined, became more fluid. Political power shifted from kings and pharaohs to smaller, localized authorities. This decentralization set the stage for the distinctive developments of the early Iron Age, a period marked by smaller polities, evolving trade patterns, and the gradual emergence of new civilizations that would later define the classical Mediterranean world. Yet the psychological impact of the collapse was profound. The sudden disappearance of palaces, armies, and urban centers left an indelible mark on collective memory. Myths, legends, and oral histories preserved the memory of catastrophe, of sudden destruction, of peoples and cities erased almost overnight. These stories would echo through generations, shaping cultural identity and collective consciousness in ways that persisted even as the material evidence of the Late Bronze Age faded. Nature reclaimed much of what humanity had built. Ruined streets became overgrown with vegetation, abandoned temples were swallowed by forests, and once bustling ports filled with silt. The Mediterranean landscape, once dotted with thriving cities and bustling harbors, became a patchwork of ruins, fields, and forests. Archaeological excavations today reveal these layers, offering glimpses into a world where civilization once flourished and then abruptly receded. The silence of these ruins speaks as powerfully as any inscription or relief, telling a story of loss, adaptation, and the impermanence of human achievement. Even amidst destruction, seeds of recovery and transformation began to emerge. Small communities adapted to new agricultural techniques, fortification designs evolved to meet emerging threats, and trade gradually resumed on a smaller scale. The social and cultural adaptations of these survivors laid the foundations for the societies that would eventually flourish in the Iron Age. The collapse, while catastrophic, was not the end of human creativity or resilience. It was a painful transition that reshaped the Mediterranean world for generations to come. The night the Sea Peoples arrived was a turning point in history, but it was also a beginning. Out of the ruins emerged new forms of social organization, economic structures, and cultural expression.
Even today, archaeologists are piecing together clues from thousands of years ago, trying to unravel the mystery of the Sea Peoples and the dramatic collapse of the Late Bronze Age. Across the Mediterranean, from the sun-scorched ruins of Ugarit to the fortified cities of Anatolia, from the deserts of Egypt to the rocky shores of Greece, researchers have been excavating layers of history, uncovering evidence that brings us closer to understanding one of the most enigmatic events in human civilization. Each dig, each artifact, each fragment of pottery is a puzzle piece, offering tantalizing glimpses into a world that vanished almost overnight. In Ugarit, modern excavations have revealed layers of destruction corresponding precisely to the period of Sea Peoples' activity. Palaces reduced to rubble, streets covered in ash, and ovens filled with half-baked bread all speak to the suddenness of the attack. Archaeologists have uncovered clay tablets that survived the flames, containing letters and diplomatic correspondence that hint at both desperation and awareness of looming disaster. These letters, written in cuneiform, reveal that the rulers of Ugarit sought aid from neighboring powers as invaders approached. Yet despite these warnings, the city could not withstand the assault. The layers of destruction preserved beneath the earth provide a chilling record of how entire urban centers were erased in a matter of days, capturing the chaos and terror of a world in collapse. In Egyptian sites, particularly Medinet Habu, offer the most detailed visual account of the Sea Peoples' campaigns. Here, the reliefs depicting the battles between Ramesses III and the invaders remain remarkably vivid, their details etched into stone with astonishing clarity. Modern archaeology and digital reconstruction have allowed historians to analyze these images in new ways, revealing insights into military strategy, ship construction, and the appearance of the Sea Peoples themselves. These studies have shown that the invaders employed sophisticated naval tactics, using ships designed for speed, boarding, and coordinated assault. Every chariot, shield, and weapon depicted in the reliefs has been carefully studied, helping scholars understand the scale, organization, and devastating effectiveness of this mysterious confederation. In Greece, excavations of Mycenaean palaces have revealed similar evidence of sudden destruction. Cities like Mycenae, Tiryns, and Pylos display burn layers, collapsed walls, and abandoned fortifications that coincide with the timing of the Bronze Age collapse. Artifacts uncovered in these sites, from weapons to pottery to tools, provide clues about the people who once inhabited them and the forces that led to their demise. The destruction is not limited to the palaces. Smaller settlements and satellite villages were also affected, indicating a widespread disruption. These findings, when combined with historical records from Egypt and the Levant, allow archaeologists to piece together a regional picture of upheaval and migration. In Anatolia, the fall of the Hittite Empire has also been illuminated by modern archaeological work. Excavations at Hattusa, the great Hittite capital, reveal burned gates, collapsed palaces, and abandoned administrative buildings. Clay tablets and inscriptions provide further context, showing the bureaucratic complexity of the empire and the sudden nature of its collapse. Researchers have studied settlement patterns in surrounding regions, noting mass abandonment, shifts in population, and signs of violent conflict. These findings suggest that the Hittites were overwhelmed by a combination of internal strife, external attacks, and systemic collapse, factors that may have fed into the broader movements of the Sea Peoples. Beyond these core regions, Cyprus, Crete, and the Levantine coast offer additional archaeological evidence. Coastal settlements show burn layers, abandoned ports, and traces of conflict, while pottery and metalwork indicate cultural influences from both the Aegean and Anatolia.
Ship remains recovered from harbor sites provide further insights into maritime technology and seafaring capabilities. These artifacts collectively paint a picture of a mobile, adaptable, and multi-ethnic confederation capable of striking across vast distances, exploiting the vulnerabilities of multiple civilizations simultaneously. Modern interpretations of these findings are reshaping our understanding of the Sea Peoples. Researchers no longer view them simply as marauding invaders. Instead, they are increasingly seen as a complex, adaptive coalition of displaced populations, refugees, and opportunistic warriors. Environmental stress, famine, political collapse, and social unrest all likely contributed to their formation. By integrating archaeological evidence, ancient inscriptions, and environmental data, historians are developing a more nuanced view of this enigmatic group. They were not merely destructive, they were a symptom of a system under extreme pressure, a force emerging from the convergence of multiple crises across the Mediterranean. Despite these advances, the mystery remains unsolved. Each excavation raises new questions, even as it provides answers. Were the Sea Peoples primarily Aegean refugees, displaced by the fall of Mycenaean palaces? Were they Anatolian tribes fleeing Hittite collapse? Or were they a more diverse coalition, incorporating groups from across the Mediterranean? Archaeologists continue to debate the evidence, analyzing artifacts, settlement patterns, and historical records to piece together the puzzle. Every new discovery, from a bronze sword unearthed in Cyprus to a burned tablet in Ugarit, adds a layer of understanding while deepening the mystery. Technological advances have also transformed the study of the Sea Peoples. 3D reconstructions of ancient ships, battlefields, and city layouts allow historians to visualize events in ways that were once impossible. Ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, and satellite imagery reveal hidden layers of cities, uncovering structures buried for millennia. These tools help reconstruct not only the physical reality of ancient settlements, but also the strategies, movements, and interactions of the people who once inhabited them. Digital modeling of Egyptian naval formations provide new insights into how Ramesses III countered the Sea Peoples' fleet, demonstrating both the ingenuity of Egyptian tactics and the sophistication of their adversaries. Artifacts, too, tell stories that complement the written record. Weapons, pottery, tools, and personal items reveal cultural connections between disparate regions, suggesting that the Sea Peoples were a mosaic of identities. The mixing of artistic styles, metallurgical techniques, and architectural elements points to a coalition of peoples drawn together by circumstance rather than a single ethnic origin. Linguistic studies of names recorded in inscriptions further support this diversity, showing traces of Aegean, Anatolian, and possibly other origins. Modern archaeology thus paints a picture of a fluid, dynamic, and adaptable force, one that defies simple categorization. Even as researchers uncover evidence, the limitations of the archaeological record highlight the enduring mystery of the Sea Peoples. Many coastal sites have been eroded by centuries of rising seas, earthquakes, and human activity. Organic materials that could shed light on diet, migration, or daily life have decayed. And while inscriptions and reliefs provide dramatic visual evidence, they are often propagandistic, emphasizing victories or portraying enemies in exaggerated ways. Piecing together a balanced, accurate picture requires careful interpretation, cross-referencing multiple sources, and acknowledging the gaps that will likely never be filled. Yet the pursuit of knowledge continues, driven by a desire to understand a turning point in human history. Fieldwork in Ugarit, Hattusa, Mycenae, and Medinet Habu continue to yield remarkable finds, tablets, weapons, fortifications, and settlements that illuminate the scale of destruction and migration. Collaborative efforts among archaeologists, historians, and scientists in disciplines like paleoclimatology and bioarchaeology are revealing new insights into the environmental and social pressures that may have contributed to the Sea Peoples' emergence. Each excavation is a step closer to unraveling the story of one of history's most enigmatic migrations. Modern interpretations also emphasize the broader implications of the Sea Peoples' impact. Their raids and migrations accelerated the collapse of long-standing trade networks, disrupted economies, and precipitated widespread social change. By studying the archaeological record, researchers are not only reconstructing the events of a single night or decade, but also understanding the forces that reshaped the Mediterranean world for centuries. The Sea Peoples were catalysts, agents of transformation whose influence extended far beyond immediate destruction. Visualization tools enhance the public understanding of these events. 3D reconstructions of Ugarit, Medinet Habu, and Mycenaean palaces allow scholars and audiences to explore the scale of urban destruction. Animated sequences depict ships navigating stormy seas, warriors clashing in coastal battles, and entire cities consumed by fire. These reconstructions provide a visceral sense of the chaos, fear, and resilience of the period, bringing to life the archaeological record in ways that traditional excavation alone cannot. The ongoing study of artifacts continues to yield insights. Analysis of metallurgy reveals the origins of bronze and iron, showing trade connections and technological transfer between regions. Pottery styles, decoration techniques, and inscriptions allow scholars to trace cultural influences, migrations, and interactions. Burial sites provide glimpses into population movements, health, and social structures. Together, these pieces help form a composite picture of a world in transition, shaped by both destruction and adaptation. Despite all these efforts, some aspects of the
Who were the Sea Peoples and where did they go? Some mysteries may never be solved. Even after decades of meticulous research, painstaking excavations, and the most advanced archaeological technology, these enigmatic peoples continue to haunt the pages of history. They arrived suddenly, striking fear into the greatest civilizations of their time, and just as mysteriously, they vanished from the historical record. Their impact, however, was undeniable, leaving a trail of destruction, migration, and transformation that reshaped the Mediterranean world forever. As we reflect on their story, we are invited to imagine the civilizations they disrupted, the lives they touched, and the fragile, interconnected world that existed before the night they arrived. The collapse of the Late Bronze Age was one of history's most dramatic transformations. Cities that had flourished for centuries, like Mycenae, Ugarit, and Hattusa, were reduced to ruins. Palaces burned, trade networks fragmented, and entire societies experienced displacement, famine, and cultural loss. The coordinated movements of the Sea Peoples amplified these effects, acting as both a catalyst and a symptom of a world under extreme stress. Their sudden appearance across the Mediterranean was not merely a military event, it was a seismic social, cultural, and economic upheaval. It demonstrated the vulnerability of even the most powerful civilizations and highlighted how quickly complex systems could unravel when faced with multiple pressures: environmental change, political instability, and human migration. Yet despite the catastrophic nature of their attacks, the Sea Peoples themselves remained shrouded in ambiguity. Ancient Egyptian reliefs depict their ships, warriors, and battles in vivid detail, showing a force that was organized, well-armed, and terrifyingly effective. Inscriptions and tablets from Ugarit, Cyprus, and Anatolia provide glimpses of the chaos and desperation that accompanied their campaigns. Archaeological layers show evidence of widespread destruction, burned cities, abandoned settlements, and the sudden disappearance of material culture. But these sources, while invaluable, leave more questions than answers. Their names, origins, and ultimate fate are subjects of speculation, debate, and ongoing research. Even as we uncover more evidence, the Sea Peoples defy simple categorization, their story both illuminated and obscured by time. The mystery of the Sea Peoples invites us to ponder the fragility of civilization. A world that had seemed permanent, structured, and interconnected was brought to its knees in a relatively short span of years. The intricate networks of trade, diplomacy, and governance that had bound the Mediterranean together could not withstand the combination of natural, social, and human pressures that converged during this period.
The Bronze Age collapse serves as a stark reminder that even the most advanced societies are vulnerable to sudden disruption, and that history can vanish almost overnight, leaving only fragments behind to tell its tale. Visualizing this era is both haunting and humbling. One can imagine the Mediterranean coast under a dark, star-studded sky, ghostly ships slipping silently across the waves, carrying displaced populations, raiders, and survivors. Cities once bustling with life now lie in ruins, overgrown by vegetation, silent testimonies to a vanished era. Palaces that once glittered with frescoes and gold stand in crumbling solitude. Streets that had echoed with the sounds of trade, laughter, and ritual are now deserted, their stones etched with the memory of lives abruptly interrupted. Archaeologists uncover these layers today, piecing together the remnants of human ambition, resilience, and vulnerability. The cultural and societal consequences of the Sea People's arrival were profound. Entire civilizations were displaced, and literacy declined as palace-centered administrative systems collapsed. Trade networks that connected distant lands broke apart, isolating communities and limiting the flow of resources and ideas. Populations migrated, blending cultural practices, technologies, and beliefs as they resettled in safer regions. While some areas slowly recovered, others remained abandoned for generations, allowing nature to reclaim once thriving urban landscapes. The transformation was both immediate and long-lasting, a reset that altered the course of Mediterranean history for centuries to come. Philosophically, the story of the Sea Peoples prompts reflection on the impermanence of human achievement. The towering palaces, intricate trade networks, and rich cultural traditions of the Late Bronze Age, which had taken centuries to build, could be undone in a matter of months or years. Civilization, no matter how advanced, is always susceptible to forces beyond its control, be they natural disasters, migration, famine, or conflict. The Sea Peoples serve as a powerful symbol of this truth, reminding us that human societies, however resilient, exist within a larger, often unpredictable world. Their sudden appearance and equally sudden disappearance are a testament to the complex interplay of human agency, environmental pressures, and historical contingency. Modern archaeology allows us to glimpse the scale and nature of this upheaval, yet it also underscores how much remains unknown. Excavations in Ugarit, Egypt, Greece, and Anatolia continue to reveal layers of destruction and traces of human activity. Artifacts, from weapons to pottery, inscriptions to ship remnants, offer tangible evidence of lives disrupted and societies transformed. 3D reconstructions allow us to visualize the ships at sea, the chaos of coastal battles, and the ruined cities left in the wake of the Sea Peoples. Each discovery deepens our understanding, while simultaneously highlighting the gaps in our knowledge. Some questions may never be answered: the precise origin of each group, the decisions that led them to strike when and where they did, and the paths they followed after their attacks. These questions remain elusive, locked away in the shadows of history. Yet even in mystery, the legacy of the Sea Peoples is enduring. They reshaped the Mediterranean, precipitating the Greek Dark Ages, altering population distributions, and leaving cultural imprints that would influence subsequent generations. Their raids, migrations, and transformations created a world that was simultaneously diminished and renewed, a landscape of destruction interwoven with the seeds of adaptation and survival. The story of the Sea Peoples is a reminder that history is not a linear narrative, but a series of converging forces, each with the power to alter civilizations in ways both visible and subtle. Imagining the lost civilizations brings both wonder and melancholy. One can picture the palaces of Mycenae, their frescoes and ceremonial halls bustling with activity, suddenly emptied and reduced to ruins. The ports of Ugarit, once filled with merchants and ships carrying copper, tin, and spices, now silent. The streets of Hattusa, alive with scribes and administrators, left abandoned. These images evoke a profound sense of human vulnerability, the realization that even the mightiest societies are not immune to abrupt change, and that the traces of once great civilizations may survive only in fragments of clay, stone, and memory. The Sea Peoples, elusive as they are, exemplify both the destructive and transformative potential of historical forces. They were carriers of chaos, yet also agents of change, driving migration, adaptation, and cultural fusion. Their sudden attacks accelerated the collapse of established systems, while setting the stage for new forms of social, political, and economic organization. The Mediterranean world they encountered was irreversibly altered, a testament to the dynamic interplay between human agency, environmental pressures, and historical contingency. Even today, as the stars reflect on the calm Mediterranean waters, one can imagine ghostly ships fading into the night, carrying stories, people, and cultures that history has only partially preserved. The ruins along the coast, overgrown with vegetation and marked by centuries of silence, bear witness to a vanished world. Modern technology allows us to reconstruct their paths, analyze their artifacts, and interpret their inscriptions. Yet the Sea Peoples remain partly beyond reach, their full story still suspended in the space between evidence and imagination. Reflecting on their legacy, we see that the Sea Peoples represent more than just a historical mystery. They are a lens through which we can understand the fragility and resilience of human societies, the consequences of environmental and social stress, and the profound ways in which migration and conflict shape civilizations. Their arrival and disappearance remind us that history is often fragile, that the structures and systems we take for granted could be undone almost overnight, leaving echoes, fragments, and questions for those who come after. The enduring question lingers in our minds: who were the Sea Peoples and where did they go? The answer remains elusive, hidden in the shadows of time, yet the legacy of their arrival continues to resonate across history, archaeology, and the imagination. And so the story ends not with a resolution, but with reflection, a reminder that history is often a tapestry of light and shadow, of certainty and mystery, and that some stories, like that of the Sea Peoples, will forever invite us to explore, question, and marvel at the lost civilizations of the past.